Greetings, MGTOWers, male rights activists, female male rights activists, and red pillars. Bill Nye was recently on The Nightly Show with Larry Wilmore, and he was asked the question, why do men have nipples? I'm paraphrasing, but his response was essentially, men are evolved women. I want you to contemplate the implications of that. Men evolved to provide for women what women couldn't provide for themselves. At some point in the history of our evolution, we had to be hermaphrodites. This concept had already been arrived at by the ancient supergenii. Even the word hermaphrodite means Hermes and Aphrodite. Plato tells us that at one point in time, men were born male and female with 8 limbs. Apparently they did something to irritate Zeus, who split them in 2, and even threatened to split them yet again if they didn't behave, so that they would have only 1 arm and 1 leg. When the Jews Hellenized, they reabsorbed the culture that they had helped create. Some Kabbalist rabbis will tell you that Adam was a hermaphrodite. Eve was taken from his side because it was not good for man to be alone, which means, before that moment, maleness and femaleness were one. You have to understand how the math cults thought, and how the monadists and the ancient philosophers metaphorically and visually anthropomorphized the generation of numbers from 0 to 1 to infinity. The same is true for the Hebrew alphabet. In the Pritzker edition of the Zohar, on page 13, footnote 92 says, not turned face to face. Initially, the union between the masculine and feminine aspects of God was back-to-back, thus incomplete. This incomplete union is symbolized by the configuration of the letter Zeta, the Hebrew letter. The Zeta must remain hidden so that this secret will not become widely known and provide the world a pretext to impugn the divine union. And then in reference 94 it says, you will arise elsewhere. The Yod and the Nun will face one another, not here, but in another letter, the Tet, where the male and female are put together in the proper form, in the proper relationship. So what does all of this mean? When you listen to people talking in the Western world with its feminine bias, people will argue that men and women are the same when it benefits women, and that they are not the same when it benefits women. They will argue that men and women are equal when it benefits women, and that they are not equal when it benefits women. How many times have you heard people talking and someone will say that a woman did something bad, and then someone excuses her for her behavior by saying that some man must have really screwed her up? This suggests that women are not responsible for their own behavior, which is the definition of insanity. When people blame others for their own violent reactions, we put them in a loony bin, or in a prison, or in a grave, as in the recent shooting in Garland, Texas. Allowing people to get away with this behavior because those people just can't help themselves is, as Bill Maher says, quite eloquently, the soft bigotry of low expectations. If men are equal to women, and they are the same, why can't women defend their own ideas in rational debate? Why do they need to be championed by the vagina-worshipping white knights of the world like Ben Affleck and Jon Stewart? How many times have you heard women say, a real man would do this, or a real man would do that? What makes women the judges of what a real man is? Are men, conversely, the judge of what real women are? Or does their ideal of women make them chauvinist pigs? Why do we tacitly agree with this prejudice that everything is about women and for their benefit? In creating my psychological models on male and female brains and how they interact, I benchmarked Deborah Tannen's science on male and female communication rituals. She uses the term complementary schismogenesis to describe how men and women interact in conversation. To put it in my own words, when men communicate with women, especially if they're arguing, they presuppose a meritocracy of masculinity, one of reason, results, contribution, and resources. Women, on the other hand, choose a different paradigm, a meritocracy of pleasantness, arguing emotionally instead of analytically, demanding mercy and charity for people that don't deserve it, crossing boundaries of reason, and making should statements that one person's resources should be squandered for the benefit of another that hasn't earned it. because that would be pleasant. If you disagree or assert yourself in a masculine way, you are being unpleasant and demonstrating your own inferiority in her meritocracy of thinking like a woman, while she, on the other hand, is failing in your meritocracy of thinking like a man. Well, that's going to be all for today. Thank you for tuning in. This has been the Music Man.